Welcome on this sunny day to the Namakwa UU congregation. My name is Susan Moody, and I am a worship associate and a member of this warm and loving group of unique individuals. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers, and who we are is best expressed in our mission statement. The Namakwa Unitarian Universalist congregation fosters a loving community that celebrates diversity, strives for peace and justice, acts mindfully for the good of the planet, and inspires spiritual growth through a free and loving search for truth and meaning. In this time of COVID-19 pandemic, our free and loving search for meaning may be taking place virtually. As we practice social distancing and wear our face masks to protect our own health and the health of others, we are holding our Sunday services virtually on Zoom. Today's service will be recorded and posted on the namakwau.org website by our webmaster, Karen Brock. Thank you, Karen. This is our 18th virtual service. Please bear with us if there are any rough spots or delays, if voices get broken up, or if the picture or screen freezes. To improve the quality of sound, our technician, Sarah Suriani, has muted everyone at the outset. Please continue to keep your microphones muted until you are speaking, or if you are speaking during the service. In Unitarian Universalism, there are 6 sources that inspire our living tradition. Today, Janen and I would like to focus on the 2 sources that have played a pivotal role in our becoming Unitarian Universalists. The first source is that of direct experience with transcending spirit and wonder, affirmed in all cultures and which moves us to a renewal of spirit and openness to the forces that create and uphold life. The 6th source is the spiritual teachings of earth-centered religions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony. For Janet and I, these have been the UU sources that have helped us bring us to where we are today spiritually.
So this morning, Susan's going to light our chalice in honor of the wisdom from Native American and Buddhist traditions that can illuminate our lives. We're also going to light our chalice to celebrate the creative fire that resides in each one of us. Now, if you could please join me in saying our congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Let's pretend the chalice is lit. I can't quite get it going right now.
And now we'll have the pleasure of viewing a Sky World dance sung by Bear Fox and performed by Teo Swath. And sit back and enjoy that.
Hana yo ho we a he. Let's put our minds together as one and remember the ones who've passed on to the sky world. Their life duties are complete. They are living peacefully in the sky world. In the sky world. Ayohoea, wehana yohoea, hey yo, hayo, hayo, hoea, hana yohoea, hey, hayo, hayo, hoea, hana yo, hayo, hoea, yo, hoea, hana yohoea, hey. Let's put our minds together as one and remember the ones who've passed on to the sky world. Their life duties are complete. They are living peacefully in the sky world. In the sky world.
Our story for the time for all ages is the legend of the Indian paintbrush, which is an old Texas legend of how the beautiful Indian paintbrush flower came into existence. Sit back and watch as little Gopher finds his true purpose in life.
The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush, retold and illustrated by Tommy DePaola, read by Nathan King. Many years ago, when the people traveled the plains and lived in a circle of teepees, there was a boy who was smaller than the rest of the children in the tribe. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't keep up with the other boys, who were always riding, running, shooting their bows, and wrestling to prove their strength. Sometimes his mother and father worried for him. But the boy, who was called Little Gopher, was not without a gift of his own. From an early age, he made toy warriors from scraps of leather and pieces of wood, and he loved to decorate smooth stones with the red juices from berries he found in the hills. The wise shaman of the tribe understood that Little Gopher had a gift that was special. "Do not struggle, Little Gopher. Your path will not be the same as the others. They will grow up to be warriors. Your place among the people will be remembered for a different reason." And in a few years, when Little Gopher was older, he went out to the hills alone to think about becoming a man, for this was the custom of the tribe. And it was there that a dream vision came to him. The sky filled with clouds, and out of them came a young Indian maiden and an old grandfather. She carried a rolled-up animal skin, and he carried a brush made of fine animal hairs and pots of paints. The grandfather spoke, "My son, these are the tools by which you shall become great among your people. You will paint pictures of the deeds of the warriors and the visions of the shaman, and the people shall see them and remember them forever." The maiden unrolled a pure white buckskin and placed it on the ground. "Find a buckskin as white as this," she told him. "Keep it, and one day you will paint a picture that is as pure as the colors in the evening sky." And as she finished speaking, the clouds cleared, and a sunset of great beauty filled the sky. Little Gopher looked at the white buckskin, and on it he saw colors as bright and beautiful as those made by the setting sun. Then the sun slowly sank behind the hills. The sky grew dark, and the dream vision was over. Little Gopher returned to the circle of the people. The next day he began to make soft brushes from the hairs of different animals, and stiff brushes from the hair of the horses' tails. He gathered berries and flowers, and rocks of different colors, and crushed them to make his paints. He collected the skins of animals which the warriors brought home from their hunts. He stretched the skins on wooden frames and pulled them until they were tight. And he began to paint pictures of great hunts, of great deeds, of great dream visions, so that the people would always remember. But even as he painted, Little Gopher sometimes longed to put aside his brushes and ride out with the warriors. But always he remembered his dream vision, and he did not go with them. Many months ago, he had found his pure white buckskin but it remained empty because he could not find the colors of the sunset. He used the brightest flowers, the reddest berries, and the deepest purples from the rocks, and still his paintings never satisfied him. They looked dull and dark. He began to go to the top of a hill each evening and look at the colors that filled the sky to try and understand how to make them. He longed to share the beauty of his dream vision with the people. But he never gave up trying, and every morning when he awoke, he took out his brushes and his pots of paints, created the stories of the people with the tools he had. One night, as he lay awake, he heard a voice calling to him, "Because you have been faithful to the people and true to your gift, you shall find the colors you are seeking. Tomorrow take the white buckskin and go to the place where you watch the sun in the evening. There, on the ground, you will find what you need." The next evening, as the sun began to go down, Little Gopher put aside his brushes and went to the top of the hill, as the colors of the sunset spread across the sky. And there, on the ground all around him, were brushes filled with paint, each one a color of the sunset. Little Gopher began to paint quickly and surely, using one brush, then another. And as the colors in the sky began to fade, Little Gopher gazed at the white buckskin, and he was happy. He had found the colors of the sunset. He carried his painting down to the circle of the people, leaving the brushes on the hillside. And the next day, when the people awoke, the hill was ablaze with color, for the brushes had taken root in the earth and multiplied into plants of brilliant reds, oranges, and yellows. And every spring from that time the hills and meadows burst into bloom. And every spring the people danced and sang the praises of Little Gopher, who had painted for the people.
We are a church family, so each Sunday we know, as you know, we take a few moments to share some of the things that are happening in our personal lives. I'll transfer a Gladstone from one bowl to another in honor of what is shared here. And please know that this community joins you to celebrate your joys and offers you comfort for your personal sorrows, each in our own way. If you'd like to share, please just raise your hand or use the chat button, and Susan and I can call on you. And of course, be brief and know that we'll have more time to talk at coffee hour after service. Janet?
Yeah, as I shared last week about my poor little kitty cat that's having so many problems, health problems. And I want to say that he's feeling better. And I want also to publicly recognize Cherry and Leonard Sokolowski, who took it upon themselves to send me a little sponsorship for him, actually a substantial sponsorship for his $2,000 hospital bill. So that's that is a perfect example of what we talk about when we say we don't have to do it alone. I hit bottom and my Namakwa family steps up. So thank them. Thank you everybody for your thoughts and your prayers. And no, he's getting a little bit better, and we still haven't gotten to the bottom of it, but we will.
Thank you, Janet.
Janen, I think Kent had his hand up.
Kent? Did you unmute, Kent?
There, did that work?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, so I've got the adventure of prostate cancer. It's not that bad, but it's located in just one area. And so I went to the cancer department on Harmony Street, and met with a woman and her helper who took me into a room where I laid flat, and then a machine went over the top of me and then back, and she said, this is just a sample, so you'll need to do that, um, and it will put a radiation that will slow down eventually the cancer and maybe help it starve to death. All you have to do is just come here for 47 days and get the 15-minute radiation that we'll give you. So be sure to set your calendar to be here to take that 15-minute radiation for 47 days. So, oh, okay. All right, maybe I'll get a suntan. I don't know, but so it keeps me very busy. And my wife is still in the rehab center, and she may be there. I don't know how long because she doesn't have the strength to get out of bed. They have to pick her up and carry her. But she and I can talk on the phone, but we cannot see one another in person. And they said, we're working and that you can see your wife for 1 hour if you make an appointment, and we'll work it out so that you'll get to see your wife. Because I haven't seen her in person. I've only talked on the telephone for about 4 or 5 months. So I can use your thoughts and promotion, prayers and along with my wife. But thank you.
We'll keep you and your wife in our thoughts and prayers, Kent.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh,
Vicky is raising her hand.
okay, and then Renee after that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a joy and a concern. As many of you know, our house has been on the market and then sold and backed out and on the market again. And we received another contract this week, so that's good. And it looks like a solid one. My concern is our daughter that lives in Scotland left her husband a few weeks ago and has filed for divorce. And she will be remaining in Scotland for at least a year until everything is finished and final. This came as a total surprise to everybody in the family. But it is what it is, and she was out of contact with us for about a month. She has been in contact now, but she does not want to divulge her address or her phone number. So if she contacts us, we talk with her. All I know is that she ran out of that house with nothing but what she had on her back and took her 2 boys and went to a friend's house. The government in Scotland has provided housing for them. So they are in housing somewhere in the Highlands. So it's a concern for us because there's absolutely nothing we can do except wait. And we've been waiting for 8 months now on the house, so we're good at waiting. But it is a concern.
Here's a stone for your daughter and you and your husband. We'll keep you in our prayers.
Thank you.
Janen, did Nicole have her hand up?
Nicole?
And Angela
Yes,
does.
thank you. Thank
Vicky,
you.
Vicky's got her hand up too.
Vicky.
Okay, let's do Nicole and then Vicky. Thanks. Thanks
Okay,
for helping me.
My laptop doesn't have a camera, so I'm just texting
Okay.
or chatting. Anyway, I have a joy and a sorrow. My sorrow is that Sid is gone. She moved to Iowa and took all the critters with her, so she's gone. But my joy is that I have my own place now. I have a new place, and that is my joy. So thanks.
Thank you, Nicole. And Vicky?
And then Angela.
Okay, Vicky and then Angela. Are you unmuted?
You're muted.
There it goes.
There you go.
Well, it's good to have several joys during this creepy time. One of them is last Sunday, I became a great aunt, Brody in Indiana. My grandchildren were here yesterday along with our daughter, and we spent a good deal of time together. And when they left, I told them I felt more whole than I had for a long time. It was a wonderful, wonderful visit, even though we couldn't embrace one another. And next week on Thursday, Tom and I will celebrate 59 years of marriage to each other.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vicki. Good joys. And we'll wrap it up with Angela.
I would like to ask you guys to remember the teachers as districts are making decisions about the safety of returning to school. There's a lot of anxiety about this decision. Liz and I are lucky. Our district has made the decision to begin remotely, but a lot of people are really torn up about whether or not they're going to, step into the classroom. And so this is really a trying time. And the tolls of not attending school is really taking hold. I'll just speak in my own neighborhood where we live, where Liz and I live. Liz had a student that was shot and killed in the past 2 weeks. There are children as young as 12 who have been shot at, injured, and killed just in July. I think it's around 6 or 7. I just woke up this morning to a Facebook post where our school is asking about a kid that's MIA that went to a party and there was some shooting and they don't know about him. So it seems like every day it's something, and this is a big mess not to be able to be in school with multiple ripple effects. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Angela. And thank you to everyone. I'll now place a stone in the bowl for all those joys and sorrows that are felt but not expressed at this time. And today we're going to use a heart sutra from the Buddhist tradition for our comfort song. In this music, they are praying for our inner peace. So just receive their blessing in your heart.
Thank you.
It was Thoreau who said, "It is something to be able to paint a particular picture or to carve a statue and so to make a few objects beautiful. But it is far more glorious to affect the quality of the day. That is the highest of arts." As a culture, Buddhism excels in this highest of arts. As many of you know, I'm sure all of you know, research shows that mindfulness literally rewires the human brain. It's effective, especially in developing the brain's capacity for experiencing happiness and fulfillment while alleviating stress and anxiety. I know none of us can use that right now. Unitarian Universalism and Buddhism came into my life together about 13 years ago. One of the first UU services I attended was put on by a group of UU Buddhists, and I shortly after joined their Sangha, which met every Sunday morning. Our UU services met at 4:30, so I was able to be part of both religions for many years. Although I quickly knew myself to be UU at heart, my family and I owe a great deal over the years to the deep wisdom of Buddhism, and I'll forever be grateful for the pioneers that brought that to the States. My oldest son, who's 28, is a practitioner of Buddhism, and to this day, my husband and I have a ritual that is very dear to my heart. That we read a chapter every morning together out of a different Buddhist book. It gives us so much to discuss and a common vision of how we want to show up in the world. My sense is that the deep wisdom of Buddhism and those Eastern traditions was as welcome as a heavy rain in a drought when they came to our young, individual, capitalistic society. I so admire a religion that's based on the suffering and cessation of suffering. That cuts to the heart of the very core of what it is to be human. Buddhism is all about waking up and being conscious of how our own minds work so that we know our options in how we can affect the quality of the day. One of my favorite Buddhist writings that made it into my own scriptures here is from Thich Nhat Hanh, and I'll just read you a bit of it. It says, "Every morning when we wake up, we have 24 brand new hours to live. What a precious gift. We have the capacity to live in a way that these 24 hours will bring peace, joy, and happiness to ourselves and others. Peace is present right here and now in ourselves and in everything we do and say. The question is whether or not we are in touch with it." And he goes on. "Many years ago, I heard a true story that I have never forgotten because it really intrigues me. There lives a Buddhist monk who spends his days in the worst slums of, I believe it's Calcutta, doing what he can to help the poor. Of course, many other monks of his order do this same thing, but this man is unique because there is about him an air of deep serenity and amazing joy that is felt by everyone who crosses his path. When this monk was asked by an English reporter how he achieves such a sublime state, he paused for a moment, then answered in these simple words, 'I go into my garden first thing in the morning, and I never leave it.'" Wow. This man is just a human being like the rest of us. He's not a god, but he knows his own power to affect the quality of the day, that all those that he comes in contact with feel it, and they get to enter this beautiful garden that he takes out with him into the world. I don't know about you, but I am not on that level yet. Even on the days I make it to my garden, so to speak, when I walk out of my garden, the visit soon becomes a distant memory. But that somebody can do that certainly raises the bar in my mind and just inspires me. I try, you know. One of the Buddhist other central teachings that I love has to do with the oneness of all things, which also pertains to creation. A couple weeks ago, my favorite speaker at GA, Reverend Galen Gingerich, from All Souls in New York City, spoke on this topic. Although on one level, of course, I've known this my whole life, it just hit me anew so powerfully. He said, Everything that exists owes its existence to a complex set of relationships that if you trace the relationships all the way out through space and all the way back in time, ultimately involves everything. As humans, for example, we are utterly dependent upon the parents who conceived us, the plants and animals that daily provide our nourishment, the trees that give us oxygen, the sun that warms the atmosphere, and so on through space and back in time. We owe everything to the people and world around us. And then he went on to say, my freedom to flip on the light switch, turn on the faucet, turn on the television, pour a bowl of cereal, drive to work, deposit my paycheck, make a phone call, get a physical, is strictly contingent. I cannot do any of these things unless a lot of people have done a lot of things upstream. In this sense, my freedom increases only as the people and world around me expand my ability to choose and act. Freedom is a function not of independence, but of reciprocity. And Reverend Galen concludes that the appropriate religious response to our experience of being part of, yet utterly dependent on, the people and the universe that sustains us is gratitude. And I can speak more about this when we report on GA in September. So Reverend Galen and Buddhist teachings stress that everything is created of relationships. In short, to create is to make something exist that wasn't there before. Often when we think of creativity, our minds do go to the arts. We think of music, poetry, painting. And if we aren't able to do these things well, we might say we're not a creative person. However, as human beings, we are all in the game of creation all of the time. We all create our moods by the thoughts we entertain. We create laughter or conflict by the things we say. We create building, science, inventions, dinner, algorithms, you name it. Creating a family and becoming a parent is a lifelong pursuit and one that ultimately transforms us, as well as many other things that we give our time for, like activism or having a career. Because everything we do and say, big and small, impacts the environment around us, we are always creating, either consciously or unconsciously. Although creativity encompasses far more than the arts, we can look at the arts as a microsphere of creation. A painting is like a distilled moment in time where we pay absolute attention to that one thing. I love what Eileen Scarry said in her book on beauty and being. She said, at its best, beauty confronts and confounds us, directing our attention towards what is absent in our world: symmetry, proportion, balance, equality, justice. So beauty in nature or music or art can be so much more than just a pleasurable experience. It can remind us of our highest visions and aspirations, and not only be the life affirming, but also, like faith itself, give us direction, hope, and guidance. Just a little more of what she said. To be swept away by the aspiration of a Bach oratorio is to become tirelessly impatient with a world where so many children have so little hope. To be stopped short by the simple calm of a Courbet landscape is to recognize that violence has no place in human relations. To be riveted by the sight of an exuberant colored butterfly is to know that we must stand strong against those who would crush the fragile and oppress the weak. Beauty issues a call to those who encounter it. It creates a covenant with those who experience it. It is a call to symmetry and equality, not just in our music and art, but also in our relations to each other and to our world. Beauty is a call to be just. And in closing, I'll leave with you a challenge that was printed up in Soul Matters. Too often our days feel like they dictate and create us rather than us creating them. So the idea was to, before you even step foot out of bed, decide, what is it that I want to create today? Maybe it will be a moment of joy for yourself or an experience of kindness for someone else. One day it might be to create an adventure, live on the wild side. While another day you might want to create something tangible, like a painting or maybe a special meal for your loved ones. It can even be something you were already going to do. But this is supposed to change it around so that you recognize that you have transformed your relationship to this thing by seeing it, which it is, an act of your own creativity. May it be so, and namaste.
And now we'll receive our virtual offering. One of the ways we at Namakwa walk our talk, is to give half of our collection away to support our local community. The half plate recipient for the first quarter of this year is Neighbor to Neighbor. They help people stay in their homes, regain stability, and in some cases, achieve home ownership. They offer private counseling and budget education and foreclosure prevention counseling in both English and Spanish. Please give generously. To donate, click on the chat icon, and Sarah will display a link that invites you to give, or you can write a check and mail it in your donation to the church. While we do this, please listen to Starry, Starry Night by Don McLean, which is about the creativity and spiritual struggle of Vincent van Gogh, who was a minister before he ever picked up a paintbrush.
Starry, starry night, paint your palette blue and gray. Look out on a summer's day with eyes that know the darkness in my soul. Shadows on the hills, sketch the trees and the daffodils. Catch the breeze and the winter chills in colors on the snowy linen land. Now I understand what you tried to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now. Starry, starry night, flaming flowers that brightly blaze, swirling clouds in violet haze, reflect in Vincent's eyes of china blue, colors changing hue. Morning fields of amber grain, weathered faces lined in pain, are soothed beneath the artist's loving hand. Now I understand what you tried to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now, for they could not love you, but still your love was true. And when no hope was left inside on that starry, starry night, you took your life as lovers often do. But I could have told you, Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. Starry, starry night, portraits hung in empty halls, frameless heads on nameless walls, with eyes that watch the world and can't forget, like the strangers that you've met, the ragged men in ragged clothes, silver thorn, a bloody rose, lie crushed and broken on the virgin snow. Now I think I know what you tried to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they're not listening still. Perhaps they never
We dedicate ourselves and these our offerings to the vision of this congregation, which is to radiate love, peace, and justice as together we work to build beloved community. My reflection is the warp and the weft of my spiritual tapestry. I'd like to begin with a few quotes about the mysterious thing we call creativity. First, from Steve Jobs. Creativity is just connecting things. When you ask creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty because they didn't do it. They just saw something. It just became obvious to them after a while. Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way. In a sense, we are all creative beings. Our lives become our work of art. John Dado Laurie, a Zen Buddhist monk. The creative process, like a spiritual journey, is intuitive, non-linear, and experiential. It points us toward our essential nature, which is a reflection of the boundless beauty and creativity of the universe. I believe that my journey began in becoming a UU was inspired partially by my life experience with the study of earth-based traditions and the thread of creativity that has always informed my life. I spent part of a summer while in high school teaching art to kindergartners in a Bible school on a Navajo Indian reservation in Kayenta, Arizona. I did this with a youth group from the Presbyterian church I was in Kansas City. I began to study their traditions and felt a kinship. I discovered that Native American tales talk about a universe and all living things moving from chaos to disorder and harmony. In the Native American view, all beings are equal, none being superior to others. Their wisdom acknowledges the interdependence of living things and values a harmonious coexistence between humans and nature. The native religion was banned by the white man when he took over their land. Some became Christian, and some maintained the old ways with their sacred native myths. Some Native Americans incorporated both of those teachings. All of this intrigued me. That wonderful experience in the Four Corners area of Native American country was magical and inspirational. I also saw and wondered at the innate creativity of my young Navajo charges. They seemed to have a natural sense of color and design. Creative threads drew me to see the world through their eyes. I fell in love with the incredible color and simplicity of the traditional and modern art of the Native American artist. I saw how the spiritual thread of their rich tradition radiated from all of it. Artists like Maria and Julian Martinez, R.C. Gorman, George Catlin, Jerome Tiger, and Alan Hauser, whose home and studio I visited 3 years ago, opened doors to my soul. Later in life, when I moved to Oklahoma and worked as a teacher of gifted students in Indian country, I gained an even greater insight into the Native American culture. My class and I were lucky enough to be invited to a private Pawnee powwow. We learned that powwows are familial places where bonds between tribal members are welcomed and expected are strengthened, and where those who are especially invited are welcome and expected to show respect and take part in the community. Everyone is accepted. The circle in which the powwow takes place and the circle imagery of the sacred objects represent the cycle of life to Native Americans. The drum, which is so central to the powwow, also has spiritual meaning and represents ancient knowledge and mystical resonance. The dance itself is an expression of thankfulness to the Creator and is done in the community of spirit, in a community in spirit of celebration. I subsequently discovered that my personal spiritual blanket had healthy, earth-based traditional threads woven in with what was left of my truncated Presbyterian threads. Those Calvinist remnants were pretty frayed at this point, I might add. But that's part of the creative process. You leave in what speaks to you, you leave out what makes no sense anymore. I became a member of All Souls Unitarian Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1996. My husband, who was an atheist, and I were at home on our first visit. The more I learned about this wonderful community, the more I knew that I had always been a UU. So the rich threads of the UU living tradition blended perfectly into my growing spiritual tapestry. I began to study Buddhism in my daily readings in the early 2000s, and soon discovered a kinship and similarity with the earth-based traditions and UU transcendentalism. I had practiced transcendental meditation since the 70s and began to try the Buddhist practice of sitting and following the breath. I found its simplicity deepened my meditations. Later, I took a class in Buddhist art. It combined meditation with what was termed unself-conscious art. It spoke to me. I once again became fascinated with the combination of spirituality and creativity. My spiritual tapestry was becoming richer, more colorful, and more authentic to the person that I had become. Buddhist practice brought another strand of creative enlightenment to the piece. As my tapestry grew, I began to realize that it would only be finished when my earth journey had come to an end. This incompleteness reminds me of a favorite lyric from a Leonard Cohen song called Anthem. There is a crack in everything. It's what lets the light come in. I would like to finish my reflection with two poems, one from the Native American tradition and one from the Buddhist tradition. They both express the meaning of a spiritual life from their similar viewpoints. The Native American poem is anonymous. If we look at the path, we do not see the sky. We are earth people on a spiritual journey to the stars. Our quest, our earth walk, is to look within, to know who we are, to see that we are connected to all things, that there is no separation, only in the mind. The second poem is The Buddha's Path by Ryokan, who was a Zen Buddhist monk. This is the way he traveled to flee the world. This is the way he traveled to return to the world. I too come and go on this sacred path that bridges life and death and traverses illusion. These wonderful spiritual sources have strengthened my roots in the living tradition of Unitarian Universalism. May it be so. And you might note that I have the chalice is lit miraculously, so.
Just in time to extinguish it. We'll now extinguish the chalice, and at the end, we'll have a song, Wake Now My Senses. And then when the song ends, Susan and I will make some announcements. And after that, of course, you can look for a breakout room that Sarah will send. So the following beautiful words are attributed to Kalasa, who was a Sanskrit writer from India. He says, look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
And now for our announcements. This is the last chance today to sign the Fair Trade Initiative petition. After the service, sorry about that. This is an initiative to replace Colorado's flat tax with a progressive one and will aid the education of our children. Add your signature from noon to 12:30 today after the service on the sanctuary stairs at the church building. Contact Doug Stewart for questions. UU member Sharon Reith is ill and unable to prepare meals for herself. And if you can help with a meal or two, please contact Elaine Axon, whose phone number and email are in the email blast. Adult Enrichment will be forming more covenant groups this summer. If you're interested or have questions, please email Laurel. On Thursday, virtual weekly lunches are occurring from 1 to 2 p.m. Contact planners Nancy Amsler and Alice Kane if you would like to receive an invitation. And we have established our Zoom meeting room. And if you would like to schedule meetings or classes there, please contact Doug Stewart and check the email blast once again for details. Janen, do you have anything? You need to unmute.
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes, thanks, Susan. As Susan said, our 2 covenant groups that we've had are winding up, and we'll be starting a couple more in August. So if you're interested in joining a covenant group, give me or Reverend Laurel your name. Sally and I got to co-host the last 2 with Reverend Laurel, and both of them were so awesome. It's just such a great way to get to know people on a really personal level and to delve into different topics that affect all our lives. So I think I get to lead one of the next ones, and I feel privileged. Also, next week is our service to celebrate the lives of Nancy Kane and her husband, Don Cook. And we're hoping to be able to hold the service in the park, the Namakwa Park, and have live music by Tim Black and Bob Jeffries. However, the park regulations limit gatherings to 10 people. So Laurel's put in a request for variance to allow up to 50 people. And of course, we have to have the face masks and the distancing. But we haven't heard back whether or not that can happen. So we will keep you posted this week. And if we do have it in the park, we'll have a way to sign up. So first come, first serve. And we hope there'll be a way to live stream it or record it for those that won't be able to make it. If any of you know how to live stream it, contact Reverend Laurel. She also wants us to know that if the variance isn't approved, we'll still hold the service virtually. So stay tuned and we'll get back with you on that. And now Sarah can send us to our breakout rooms, and everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming to church.